you have to approach the land court first to resolve any disputes, and then only after that, where a resolution hasn't come together, or an amicable resolution hasn't been proposed, then you can take it further into the other courts.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Joe Emilio Show. I'm your host, Joe Emilio. And in today's episode, I chat to Rob Hutchinson from DRSA. Recently, the EWC bill was approved by the National Assembly of South Africa, and I'm concerned. I think other South Africans should also be concerned. But I want to know what DRSA has to say on this. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome Rob Hutchinson. Oh, and before he comes on, I just wanted to mention that towards the end of the interview, the last 2.5 minutes, 1 minute, there is a bit of a buzzing noise. You'll have to excuse that. The power went off while we were recording the interview, and the UPS seems to be causing a little bit of a frequency issue. But please excuse that. Hello, Rob. Once again, good to have you back on the show. I did have a long-form conversation with you. I'll link that in the description as well. If people want to go check that out. It was a very nice conversation. Thank you so much for joining me once again in this short form interview. Very quickly, as you know, EWC bill passed through National Assembly last week or the week before. Some people are freaking out. Some people aren't. I wanted to know from DRSA themselves, what's your guys' opinion on the bill? Should we be concerned?
Yes and no. There's always that answer, isn't it? Yes or no. Yeah. So I think that there are certain points in it that should be of concern. Number one is it is an expropriation bill. However, it is a bill that has been around for quite some time. There there are issues around where land needs to be expropriated in the case of if there are highways to be built or servitudes to be addressed and so on, or infrastructure to be erected on private property, then the law does cater for expropriation. However, it does cater for expropriation with compensation, not without. So what this bill proposes is that in certain cases there can be nil compensation. They very cleverly don't say without compensation; they say nil compensation. And the problem there is that it is still in conflict with the Constitution. So I think that what will happen from here is that there will definitely be a court challenge on this bill. However, it would be wise to wait until the first piece of land is expropriated with nil compensation, and then that person will be supported by many civil society organizations and can address that. What's important to note, Joe, is that the land court bill was also passed about a week before this bill was passed, and the two work hand in hand together. Without the establishment of land courts and the processes involved around how disputes can be handled, how resolutions can be addressed, and so on, the expropriation bill cannot function as proposed. However, the issue still remains that it is an unconstitutional a bill in its current form.
And so just so we're clear on this, you say that, well, it's my understanding that DRSA will wait until basically someone has their land expropriated without compensation, and then you'll get involved, because what
Yeah.
I'm hearing from other civil society groups such as AfriForum and IRR, they're not really going to wait. So they're going to, as soon as they can, contest the bill and take it to court. But DRSA is basically going to wait a bit until
Yes, I
land
think it
was...
would be wiser. I
Okay.
think it would be a better strategy to actually wait, because then you have a definite case. And then you can test out both bills. So you can test out the land court bill, which is the route that you're going to have to go first of all. The land court bill has been set out, and it specifically states that you have to approach the land court first to resolve any disputes, and then only after that, where a resolution hasn't come together, or an amicable resolution hasn't been proposed, then you can take it further into the other courts. So I think challenging the bill right on might be a bit premature and a bit of a difficult case. because the state could actually say, well, we've set up a land court to challenge disputes. Why don't you wait until that? So I'm not saying they shouldn't address it right now. I think it's something that definitely does need to be addressed and brought to the state's attention. However, a multi-pronged approach is always the best.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. But at the same time, it's kind of worrying because we've seen something like this happen in Zimbabwe, where they contest these
Mm.
land expropriation without compensation, and people, the court drags on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and there's no end to it. But I guess
Yeah,
hopefully South African constitution is a little bit better. South African law is a little bit better, and
yeah,
may take years, but hopefully something.
it'll eventually get there.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is that's why this approach was taken by government, because disputes did take forever and forever to be resolved. And although most people who got land given to them in the land restitution process opted for money instead of the land, there were still cases where the amount that was proposed to purchase the land wasn't agreed on by the seller, and I put seller in inverted commas there. But the same thing will happen here. Same thing happen here. It'll be again a dispute based on those issues, but go one step further into the land courts.
Like you said, yes and no. Be concerned, but at the same time, we just gotta wait and see what happens. I'm don't nobody must quote me on IRR and AfriForum taking it to court immediately. I will have someone from AfriForum and someone from IRR on the show to see what their thoughts are and what they plan to do. But all that in due time. Rob, another thing that's popped up is DRSA has a new campaign, and
Mhm.
it seems a bit quick because the deadline's already on the 18th of October. And it is the Terrorist and Related Activities Amendment Bill. I had a quick read on it. It sounds very concerning, but a lot of legal jargon. Can you clarify why South Africans need to be concerned about this?
Yeah, well, this is a very contentious bill, and it affects citizens as well as non-profits, church organizations, or any outspoken civil body person or organization. What it proposes is, well, let's start at the beginning. It's actually uh, they've built it as a drive to align with international laws on terrorism and also money laundering and funding of terrorism. There's actually two bills out at the moment, but they've added another section on it, which almost gives the state total control over absolutely everything. I just have to point out that they call it the Protection of Constitutional Democracy um, Against Terrorism and Related Activities Bill, which is fantastic doublespeak in my opinion, because this does exactly the opposite. It doesn't protect constitutional democracy at all. In fact, it threatens the very basic and foundation of a democracy. It's pretty much can be used in its current form to silence outspoken individuals, political opponents, and particularly civil society organizations. There's a very loose definition around what terrorist is, or what the word terrorist actually means, and also what terrorist activities actually means. And the state can basically declare anything a terrorist activity, whether it's a YouTube channel that is outspoken against a government proposal, or in the basic work that an organization such as ourselves, DRSA, does, where we send public comment through to government. If too many people, or if even one person disagrees with it, that person can be classified as a terrorist. Uh, Again, because there are such loose definitions around this. So I think it's a rather contentious bill in its current form, and it absolutely needs to be challenged. Normally, DRSA would take a neutral stance in this, but in this case, for our own survival and for the protection of democracy, we are taking a firm stand in this one against this bill.
Yeah, no, it. I thought it would be an issue for you guys because I remember when you guys were trying to fight against the Health Amendment Act, the amendment, yeah, the amendments to the Health Act. you guys were labeled as terrorists. I think it was
Yeah,
the ANC or the health minister. Someone came out and said, "No, these civil society guys are trying to stop this and it's an act of terrorism." And I don't know what. It was
exactly.
ridiculous, and I don't blame DRC at all taking this amendment a little bit personally.
That's exactly it. And we were labeled terrorists for simply sending public comment through to government. And most of those comments were against the proposed health regulations.
Yes, that's
And
correct.
in that they labeled us as a terrorist organization and promoting destabilization of the state, which is a perfect example of how this bill can be abused
Mm,
to further government objectives.
yeah,
It's quite a terrifying state. It's basically, we see it as the end of free speech, which is a guaranteed constitutional right. Um, but yeah, it has to be challenged. And the scary thing is it's billed to us as aligning with international laws to prevent South Africa being grey listed, which is absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish. It's the way government actually puts things through always is for the protection of yourself and your own good. And in this case is no different. And interesting enough, the media, they've only focused on that aspect of it. They
of
haven't
course.
brought up anything about the threat to individuals, the threat to democracy, or anything else like that. It's all about saving South Africa from being grey listed.
Yeah, never let a crisis go to waste, right? Anyway,
100%. Yeah, never waste a good crisis.
yeah. Rob, thanks again.
Excellent. Thanks, Joe. Have a wonderful day.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. And let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Are you worried about the EWC bill? Also, don't forget to have your say on the DRSA website. Link is in the description with regards to the Terrorist and Related Activities Amendment Bill. Please go have your say. There is more information on the DRSA website about that bill as well. As mentioned before, I'll try and have a member from AfriForum and IRR on the channel to also discuss the EWC bill. Well, ladies and gentlemen, stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you at the next one. Cheers.